subsequently became village treasurer for 16 years, Ralph Pontifex.
Oh, sure. Yes, Ralph Pontifex is very well known. Cynthia, I wanted to ask you a question. Now, you were down in Woodridge.
Right.
Had the development just been built?
It was 4 years old.
So it was built in 1954?
It was probably built in 51 or 2.
Okay.
And it was part of the Isler estate from Isler Coffee.
Okay.
And there was a little carriage house there, and then the rest of the homes were built, and we bought it when it was about 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
And it was called The Development.
Okay.
Nobody liked it that you lived in The Development.
Oh, that's a marvelous memory. Thank you so much. Can we hear it for Cynthia? Wasn't that great to get us started?
Tell us about the big fire, John, in 1942.
Well, Dean, why don't you come up and talk about that? Come on.
Stand up, stand up.
Stand up, Dean, and come up so we can film you.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the...
Dean, we're going to ask you to come to the front.
So,
John, maybe you can sit.
Yeah.
okay, I will
And Dean, you can sit here if you wish.
to be dead.
And this way. No, we want you to
I will have to.
be alive and well.
Okay. I will. In 1940, World War II, with the village hall, and in the back of the village hall, we always had a flower show. Does anybody remember the flower show? No. And I took little game things because we're in war. But anyway, they had the fire and burnt down the village hall. Oh, now the only people who were there were young kids. There were 16-year-old kids. And all of a sudden, whoever was chief at the time, he says, we got kids, 16-year-old kids. If we didn't have none of the kids, we would lose the whole place burned down. So they went and had a meeting, I guess the village board and the fire department, and they took 16-year-old children, with the permission of the parents, became firemen at 16 years old. And they used to get on their bicycles and run over, and it was, and that was a heck of a, you remember this.
I remember, yes, that time, and the fire whistle would go off in the high school. They'd hear the fire whistle, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 the doors went open.
Did anybody put the picture and know where it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dean, why don't you describe where the village hall was at that time?
Well, it's right up the street here. We
267.
still got the jail underneath. Does anybody know about the jail?
Yes.
Everybody knows about it. We had one constable, one person.
Not everyone knows where the jail is, this young man here next to us.
But the jail was right across the street from, where is the bank?
Dean, it's next to the Citibank parking lot.
Right.
267 Siglet Avenue, the white building.
And the Smiths used to be next door, and you had Carl.
Which was a drugstore.
Yeah, Smiths. And then you had Chauncey Matthews, and he was the real estate person, right next door.
Bart's, that's where Bart's
Bart was right across the way. And Bart always, there was a war going on, and he got my first haircut for Carl, his father from here. And says to me, I'm sitting here, 5 years old, 4 years old, getting a haircut. And all of a sudden a car comes up, and it's Rackletree car, and he left the engine running, and my mother walks in. Who's letting that car running? This isn't a war. And the guy looks around, quick, takes, says, and boom, the guy goes. My mother did not realize it was a bookmaker. This is true. And we had more drug bookies than anything else. I sit down.
Dean, your mother sounded a lot like you.
You know, tell us where the picture is.
Glen and Park Place.
That's exactly correct. In my grandmother's house and it was bought, my great-grandfather built a house,
Your grandmother
51
was my
Park Place.
babysitter.
Pardon me?
Your grandmother was my favorite babysitter.
Really?
My kids loved her.
Oh, Gene.
Ella Gill.
Yep, Ella Gill.
Okay.
Oh, how marvelous. Thank you, Gene. Let's hear it for Gene. That's the photograph I think, Joni, you have back there. And it's Glen Avenue, and you're looking down Park. Great photo, Dean. That's marvelous.
Well,
and thank you for those memories, Dean.
I think it's Cora Bauer's farm.
Okay.
And that goes back.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
he owned that.
And of course, they owned a lot of property.
Yeah.
And that was Grossman. They're all German. Oh, I can't believe it.
And Dean, you
And
mentioned...
you could not smoke and you could not drink in Seacliff. If you wanted to get a drink, that's like a beer or something, you had to cross the Lake Cove Avenue and go to the Colony Corner to get a beer. Because the Methodists, they hide in a corner.
And Dean, how many bars do we have on Seacliff Avenue now?
Oh, now! Oh, everybody's wild.
But
Years ago, you could not have a drink.
Dean, you mentioned Bart's Barbershop, and I want you to know that Joe, who I heard the other day, doesn't he do a wonderful job? The tradition continues, Dean.
Right.
It's marvelous. Gene, would you come up and tell us some of your memories? Let's hear it for Gene Davis.
I know one about the library. I was newly married, and my mother decided to go back to work. So she was looking around for a job. And Mr. Ludlow Charlie Ledlow was on the board, and he called her up and he said, "They need a clerk up at the library. Why don't you apply?" So she went up and applied and got the job. And she worked with Marion the librarian. And they hit it off great. The only thing that was strange was 3 times a year, Marion insisted that they move all the books around to the other side, so she could clean the books and the shelves. So my mother was 4'11" and 100 pounds, and 3 times a year she was up there with Marion, moving every book in the library, reversing the library so they could clean the books and the shelves.
That reminds me that when I was growing up, of course, Miss Roback was the librarian, as been mentioned, and my mother was working as a librarian at one time, and I remember it was pretty active. They would be bending down, getting the books, moving the books, but it was always great if I came over after school that my mother would be there. And it's been such a marvelous atmosphere in the library, and I walked through today, and it was great to see the young people and others who are studying and researching, and spent a lot of time there as well in law school, studying, and then young Mr. Teagan and I, preparing for the bar exam, studied there at the library, and it's always...
She's very strict.
Absolutely, had to be quiet in there, etc., but wonderful facility for our community. Are there other memories? Yes, Dean?
I just want to tell you.
Phyllis, come on up.
I don't want to get up.
Come on up, Phyllis.
Go ahead.
1 second, I just want to tell you a very funny librarian
Yeah, sure.
story. That I once said to somebody that I was going to a library conference because we have a professional organization like the American Medical Association. There's an American Library Association. I was going off to the conference and people said, "What do you do? What do you do there?" And I said, "We learn how to go."